My family left me because my sister-in-law blamed me for her divorce. Years later, I got an email unexpectedly, and it explained everything with evidence. So I used that proof to show how she lied and hurt me. About 7 years ago, when I was 22 and not able to afford my own place yet, my family kicked me out of the house and cut off contact. It was really sudden, and I wasn't ready for it emotionally or financially. The reason behind all of this was my sister Hannah. She's older than me by 10 years and we've never been very close. When she was 27, she married her boyfriend, Pete, who was 2 years older. They were married for 3 years until Hannah accused Pete of cheating with one of my friends. After college, I moved back in with my parents to save money while I started working. They were fine with it, until my sister's divorce announcement. She came home one day crying, saying she filed for divorce because Pete had been cheating for 6 months. Then she blamed me for introducing my friend Emily to him. Emily, who was trying to gain weight, needed dietary advice, so I introduced her to Pete, who was a dietitian. Turns out Emily was the one Pete was cheating with. I was shocked when all of this happened. Even though Emily and I were close, I knew she wouldn't get involved with a married man. And Pete? He seemed head over heels for Hannah, always speaking highly of her. So I found it hard to believe he'd cheat. Despite my doubts, my parents instantly believed Hannah, no questions asked, even though she had no proof. I get it though. They choose their daughter over their son-in-law any day. But what I couldn't understand was why they kicked me out just because Hannah said so. She came in angry one day, blamed me for introducing Emily to Pete, and convinced my parents to kick me out, saying I ruined her marriage. I was devastated. I begged my parents to listen, but they wouldn't. They said if I didn't leave, they'd make me. In just one day, I lost my family and my home with no idea where to go. I cried on the sidewalk for hours with all my stuff before finally going to a friend's house for the night. I tried calling my family every day after that, but no luck. Thankfully, my friend let me stay with him until I found my own place. But my parents were convinced I caused the divorce, and there was nothing I could do to change their minds. My mom and dad didn't just kick me out. They made me feel awful about it too. They said they were disgusted by what I did, even though I didn't cheat with Pete. They even blocked my calls, and when I tried to visit, Mom threatened to call the cops. It hit me then that they really blamed me for everything. Honestly, I shouldn't have been surprised. My sister was always the favorite, and I was used to being pushed aside. I never thought it would lead to something like this, though. Looking back, maybe I should have seen it coming, but it blindsided me. For weeks, I tried to make sense of it all on my own since Hannah and my parents cut me off completely. I couldn't talk to Pete either. He blocked me too. And I couldn't find him or Hannah because they moved out of their house to live with their parents. I was totally cut off from everyone involved. Feeling like I had no other options left, I turned to my last hope, Emily. Even though we were close, I had to give it a shot. I asked her to meet up and explained everything. I needed to know if what Hannah said about her and Pete was true. Emily denied it completely, and I believed her. She said she'd only met Pete a few times for professional reasons. There was nothing romantic between them, and she couldn't understand why Hannah would accuse her. Emily even showed me pictures and told me she had a steady boyfriend, planning to get married soon. What she said made a lot more sense than what Hannah claimed. Without any proof, I couldn't go back to my family, even though I miss them a lot despite what happened. At first, I was desperate to reconcile, but with time I learned to move forward. I found a place to live and threw myself into my job to keep busy and pay the bills. It hurt, but I knew I had to keep going, even without my family's support. Years passed and my life improved. I upgraded to a bigger apartment and got engaged to my girlfriend of 2 years. Our engagement posts on social media ended up changing everything. A few days later, I got an unexpected email that explained everything about Hannah's divorce and even had proof attached. It turns out, my fiancé posted our engagement on Facebook, reaching a wider audience, including my ex-brother-in-law, Pete. My fiancé, a doctor, had met him at a seminar, and they connected on Facebook. It was a small world, and for once, I was grateful for it. Pete reached out to me a few days after we posted our engagement, but he didn't text me on social media. Instead, he sent an anonymous email. He explained later that he did this because it had been years since his divorce and he didn't want to seem hung up on it. Plus, he had blocked me before, so he felt awkward reaching out about something from so long ago. The email he sent had the whole story and proof of what really happened 7 years ago. I couldn't believe it when I read it. Turns out, my sister was the one cheating on Pete, not the other way around like she'd said. And here's the kicker, she was cheating with a friend of mine, Frank, who worked at the grocery store near her house. I never would have guessed because I'd never seen them together. They must have kept it quiet, but Pete found out. When he confronted Hannah, she blamed me. She said I introduced her to Frank and even encouraged them because he was an aspiring singer and she was a good singer. She claimed I helped them keep it secret. Pete was furious when he found out about the affair between my sister and Frank. He was so angry that he blocked my whole family, although he admits now that it was rash. He told me all this when we met in person because he wanted the email to be anonymous. But I pieced it together. The proof he sent was screenshots of emails between my sister and Frank, confessing their love and making plans to meet. She even signed off with her middle name, which not many people knew. I had solid evidence against her. I realized it was Pete who sent the email after I checked Lisa's Facebook friends. It felt like social media had something to do with it. When I found Pete on her list, I reached out. We met recently, and he explained that he found out from Emily, who met him a while ago. I had asked Emily to keep quiet, but I regretted it because if I hadn't, she might have told Pete earlier, and I could have proved my innocence long ago. They bumped into each other a couple of years ago, and Emily asked Pete about the divorce. They talked, and Pete finally learned what my sister had been telling us. He wanted to tell me the truth, but felt awkward about it. If Pete wasn't so easily embarrassed, my life would have been easier. I forgave him because I needed his help to expose my sister. Hannah lied to her parents to get financial support during her divorce and blamed me too. Knowing Emily could reveal the truth, I couldn't believe someone, especially family, could be so selfish. She never set the record straight, and my parents believed her lies. She knew if they found out she was the cheater, she'd be in trouble. But now the truth was out, and I was ready to use it against her. I hadn't visited my family in 7 years, but they still lived in the same house. I confirmed this with a neighbor before showing up. I wasn't surprised Hannah was still there. She always avoided work and preferred living with our parents. 2 days ago, Pete and I showed up at my family's house unannounced. My mom opened the door and we walked in without giving her much time to react. My dad and Hannah were in the living room. At first, it felt like we were one big happy family again, but their expressions quickly changed. My dad threatened to call the cops if we didn't leave. I told him he could do that after seeing the documents we had. They looked confused, but Hannah looked sick and left for her room. We showed them the divorce papers and screenshots of Hannah and Frank's emails while I explained the truth. Pete told them Hannah had to give up our family heirloom, my grandmother's diamond ring, in the divorce because she couldn't afford to pay him. My parents were horrified, and things got even worse when my dad demanded answers from Hannah. She tried to lie despite the evidence against her. My dad kicked her out, packed her things, and told us all to leave. I didn't hesitate and left with Pete. Meanwhile, Hannah begged my parents to let her back in just like I had years ago. It felt like karma, and I couldn't be happier. A few days have passed since then, and my sister came to my place a little while ago, insisting that I fix things with our parents right away. I didn't know how she found me, but I told her I didn't owe her anything anymore. She caused me a lot of trouble before, so I did the same to her. And now we're even. She started crying and calling me a monster, but I didn't pay much attention to her drama. I just put on my headphones and listened to music while my fiancé worked in another room. After a while, my sister left, but not before leaving a message on my door to remind me that she thinks I'm a vengeful monster. So, even though it's been a whole week since Hannah got kicked out, she's still bothering me. Today she called me 14 times. I had to tell her I'd call the cops if she didn't stop. I don't know how she got my number and address, but I don't care right now. Hannah wants me to feel sorry for her because she says she doesn't make enough money as a teacher to live on her own. But I don't think that's true. She's just upset because she has to find her own place to live and pay for things like rent and groceries since our parents kicked her out. So, I don't feel bad for her. Oh, and in case you were wondering, I tried blocking her number many times, but she keeps finding ways to contact me, like adding me to group calls with her friends. And speaking of our parents, they're just as bad, maybe even worse than Hannah. They found me on Facebook and saw that I'm engaged, so now they want to be part of my life again and come to my wedding. But they haven't said sorry for kicking out Hannah yet. They just expect me to invite them to my wedding like nothing happened. It's crazy. I don't get how they can say stuff like that. But at least I'm not responding to any of their messages. My fiancée Lisa and I laugh at their texts because it's just so ridiculous. It's sad for them, really. So, Hannah came to my house again after I warned her about harassing me. I was getting ready to leave for work when she threw herself on the front of my car and refused to move until I talked to her. It was frustrating, so I called the police. They took her away while she cried and accused me of being mean. But nobody believed her act. It took some time, but I pressed charges against her. Then I went to work, not wanting this to ruin my day. I knew my parents would bail her out because they always favored her, and I was right. After bailing her out, my parents texted me saying I was too hard on them for something they did years ago. It was funny because what they did to me and my sister was not a mistake. They knew what they were doing when they kicked me out, even though they knew I had nowhere else to go. Now that I have the power to do the same to them, I don't see why I should be nice. I texted them back, telling them they lost the right to control me a long time ago. I haven't blocked them yet, but I will soon. Hopefully, then I won't have to deal with my family anymore. I came back home from work and saw another long message from my parents on social media. Lisa and I read it together, and it was so funny. I'm not even hurt by what they say anymore, just amused by how wrong they are. They think we're still a family and want me to come to dinner to sort things out before the wedding. But I don't want them at my wedding, ever. I replied that I'm not interested in their invitation and I'm happy living away from them. They showed me I'm better off without them, and I'm grateful for that. I don't need their forgiveness or anything from them. So I blocked them for good. Lisa is my family now, and that's all I need. If they try to contact me again, they'll hear from my lawyer. That's it.